Good morning, dear 10th class students. Hope you all are fine and safe at your home. So, today onwards, we are starting our chapter number 3, that is metals and non metals. Okay, so first of all, we have to start this chapter. Uh, so in class 9th you already have learnt about various elements. You have seen that element can be classified as metal or non-metals. Okay, so you already discussed about the what are the metals and what are the non-metals. Okay, metals like sodium, okay, potassium, calcium, these are the metals, and non-metals like carbon. Okay, so these are the some non-metals, maybe chlorine or like sulfur. So what are the basis on that we have to classify some elements are the metals or some elements are the non-metals. So think of some uses of metals and non-metals in our daily life. What are the uses of metals and non-metals in daily life? So what properties did you think of while categorizing elements as metals? So this is the important thing. Second one, it means what are the basis, it means what are the basic things on that we have to classify or we have to categorize. It means some metals, some elements are metals and non-metals. And how are these properties are related to use of these elements. So some properties you already discussed in class 9, and so first of all we have to discuss about the physical properties of metals, and then we will discuss about the physical properties of non-metals also, and the physical property and chemical properties of metals. Okay, so first is the metal, the easiest way to. So if the anyone is asking about that, what are the metals? So metals are the element which can show the metallic properties. It means they can show the ductility, malleability. They are good conductors of heat and electricity. Okay, and many properties are also can be included in this physical properties. Okay, so the easiest way to start grouping substance is by comparing their physical properties. So let us study this with the help of the following activities. For activities 3.1 to 3.6, collect the samples of the following metals. Means iron, copper. It means 3.1 to 3.6, it means to do this activity. Okay, we need some iron, some samples, metal samples like iron, copper, aluminum, magnesium, sodium, lead, zinc, and any other metal that is easily available. So for activity 3.1, what we have to do, listen. Take sample of iron, copper, aluminum and magnesium. Note the appearance of each sample. Okay, we will see the each samples appearance. Appearance means how they lustrous or how they shiny. Okay, so it is showing the appearance. So you know about that metals generally have the shiny appearance. So clean the surface of each sample by rubbing them with the sandpaper and note that appearance again. So metals in pure state have a shining surface, and this property is called a metallic luster. So this is the one of the property of the metal in which the metals generally shine with the rubbing with the sandpaper, or generally having the shining appearance is known as metallic luster. Okay, next activity 3.2. Take a small piece of iron, copper, aluminum, magnesium. Try to cut these metals with a sharp knife. Okay, for this you have to know the this atomic number also. Okay, at least you should remember the atomic numbers from element 1 to 30. Okay, so it is better to know how we can represent this, because sometime we need the electronic configuration, and without atomic numbers we cannot classify or we cannot distinguish into the their electronic concept or electronic configuration. Okay, so try to cut this metals with a sharp knife, and note your observation. Hold a piece of sodium metal with a pair of tongs. Okay, tongs means chimta, and always handle a sodium metal with care, because you know about the sodium and potassium are a very highly reactive metals. And dry it by pressing the folds of a filter paper. Okay, why we are dry it? Because continuously when this is when in the presence of air, or with the presence of outer side oxygen, generally they are highly reactive. That's why we are just making the folding up into the filter paper. So put it on a watch glass and try to cut with the help of a knife. What do you observe? So what do you will observe? So listen. you will observe, you will find that metals are generally hard. The hardness varies from metal to metal. It means iron, aluminum, they are such a type of metals which are having a very hard metals, but sometimes, so the hardness varies from metal to metal. It means some metals are maybe too much hard, some less hard, or some are like a ductile nature. It means so some are generally less hard. It means too much soft also, like sodium and potassium. So sodium and potassium are the two metals we can cut with the help of knife. So they are very soft in nature, and which is a exceptional case for the metals. Okay. So activity 3.3, take a piece of iron, zinc, lead and copper. Place any one metal on a black block of iron or strike it for 4 or 5 times with a hammer. What do you observe? Repeat with other metals. Record the change in the shape of these metals. You will find that some metals can be beaten into thin sheet. This property is called malleability. Okay, that means some metals already generally can be beaten into a thin sheet, and this property is known as malleability. So you know about that most malleable metals which can be used for the jewelry purpose, that is the gold and silver. Okay. Consider some metals such as iron, copper, aluminum, lead, etc. Which one of the metals are also available in the form of wires? It means which type of or what type of metals are generally used in the formation of wires. Listen. The ability of metals to be drawn into a thin wire is called ductility. It's called ductility. It means gold is the most ductile metal, and then silver, and then maybe copper, aluminum, iron. But you will surprised to know that a wire about 2 kilometer length can be drawn from a 1 gram gold. Okay, it is the most ductile, so only 1 gram of gold can be beaten into a thin wires of approximately 2 kilometer length. Okay, and it is because of their malleability and ductility that metals can be given different shapes and according to our needs. So can you name some metals that are used for making cooking vessels? Like copper, aluminum. Okay, so do you know why these metals are used for making vessels? Let us do the following activity. Okay, so for that we have to do one activity. In this activity we have to see the metals are, we have to show the metals are a good conductors of heat, and for that we have to use a particular metal wire in the form of one rod. Okay, so for this what we have to do, listen. Take an aluminum or copper wire, clamp the wire on a stand as shown in figure 3.1, and fix a pin to the free end of the wire using a wax. ठीक है? Okay, तो देखिए ठीक fix a pin to the free end. Okay, here we have to make a pin with the help of wax. Okay, and free end of the wire. Heat the wire with the spirit lamp. Okay, it means with the spirit lamp we are just heating this metal wire here. Okay, and what we are showing here, it means if this rod is a good conductor of heat, then continuously this heat will be conducted. Okay, conducted, and it will be goes to here, and the wax will be melt and pin will be fall down. But if the good conductor of electricity, okay, sorry, if the good conductor of heat. So heat the wire with a spirit lamp, candle or burner near the place where it is a clamp. What do you observe after some time? Note your observation. Does the metal wire melt? The above activity shows that metals are a good conductors of heat and have a high melting points. This is showing activity is showing that it means metals are the good conductor of heat and have a high melting points. It means when you are giving a too much heat, then the conduction is possible and the melting of wax. That's why they are known. They are also high melting points. The best conductor of heat are silver and copper. Lead and mercury are comparatively very poor conductors of heat. Okay, so do metals also conduct electricity? Let us find out. Okay, so for that we have to do one very simple activity, activity 3.6. Okay, so set up an electric circuit as shown in figure 3.2. This type of you already done in 7th or 8th class project. So place two metal as a clip. So here two clips are there, A and B. Okay, and for the insert sample to be tested. It means if we are using a plastic nozzle pipe or any rubber, it means eraser or anything which we have to prove any metal is a good conductor of heat or electricity, or maybe some metals which contain the metallic properties, they are also good conductor of heat or electricity. So you must have seen that the wire, they can carry current from your homes from a coating of polyvinyl. It means PVC wires are there, and rubber like material. So rubber like material is for so do the insulation's purpose. Why are electric wires coated with such substance? Okay, so why are electric wire coated with such substance? What happens when metal strike a hard surface? Do they produce a sound? The metal that produces a sound on striking a hard surface are said to be a sonorous. So first of all, we have to see here. It means some sample or some we have to prove here. If there, when we are adding with these clips, this sample in between we have to keep, and if there is a bulb will be glow, then this sample will be the good conductor of electricity. And if the bulb will not glow, then it means the sample is a insulator of electricity. And next term is sonorous. They are having the one more metallic properties. It means when a metal is, it means the metals that produce a sound on striking a hard surface are said to be a sonorous. Okay, that's why our school bells are also made up of metals. Now some properties of non-metals. In the previous class you have already learned that a very few non-metals as compared to metals. Some of the examples of non-metals are carbon, sulfur, iodine, oxygen, hydrogen, etc. And the non-metals are either solid or gas except bromine, which is a liquid. Okay, it means only a bromine is a liquid which has a it means the liquid properties, other or solid or gases. So total number of 10 are solids, one is liquid, and 11 are gases. So total number of non-metals are 22 in number. Okay, you have to remember. So do non-metals also have a physical property similar to that of metals? Let us find out. So I think it is different from metals. That's why we have to showing with the properties. Okay. So activity 3.7, collect samples of carbon, coal or graphite, sulfur and iodine, because these three are the example of our non-metals. Carry out the activities. One is this with non-metals and record your observation. So elements like carbon, so symbol is C, sulfur, symbol is S, and iodine. Okay, it means I. So types of surface, it means they are having a shiny surface or not. Iodine is a shiny surface. Okay, they are having a luster. This is the exceptional cases for us. Hardness, what is the hardness nature, what is the malleability, what is the ductility. Okay, and it means draw into thin sheet or into wire or not. It means conduction, heat or electricity, or sonority. It means when hitting the ground, it making a ringing sound or not. It is showing the sonority. On the basis of observation recorded in table 3.1, discuss the general physical properties of metals and non-metals in the class. You must have included that we cannot group elements according to their physical properties alone, as there are many exceptions. For example, all metals except mercury exist as a solid at room temperature. So many metals and non-metals are just showing the one or two are just showing the different properties. It means showing the exceptional cases. So all metals are not exhibit the same properties, but most of metals, it means maybe the 90 or 95% metals are showing the same properties. Okay, and also for non-metals also like that. All metals except mercury exist as a solid at room temperature. In activity 3.5, okay, in activity 3.5 we already seen in here. We cannot use the mercury as a to make a metal wire. So all metal except, so in activity 3.1 you have observed that metals have a high melting point. Metals have a high melting point. But gallium and cesium, look, but gallium and cesium have a very low melting point. But gallium and cesium have very low melting point. It means it is exceptional cases, and these two metals will melt if you keep them on your palm. It means they can get heat from our palm and can be melt after that. Okay, so iodine is a non-metal, but it is a lustrous, because lustrous is the properties of metals, but iodine is a non-metal and having a lustrous appearance, yellow in color. Carbon is a non-metal that can exhibit in the different forms. Each form is called allotropes. Okay, so carbon having the allotropes. Actually, they are having a 3 allotropic form. Okay, that graphite, and second one is diamond, and third one is fullerene. So, but here we are discussing about the 2 forms because they both are exhibit the different properties in the carbon non-metal. So, diamond is a allotrope of carbon, is the hardest natural substance known as a very high melting point. You know about that hardest property is for our metals, but carbon is a non-metal, very high melting and boiling point. Graphite, another allotrope of carbon, is a conductor of electricity, and you know about that conductor of electricity is a property of metals, but graphite also exhibit this property. Graphite is a non-metal. Alkali metals lithium, sodium, potassium are so soft, so they can be cut with the knife. It means those are the elements which are having the one electron outermost. It means they are very soft in nature for the metals. Okay, you know about that lithium atomic number is 3, sodium is 11, and potassium is 19. So that's why they are having the one outermost electron after the inert gas configuration. That's why they are very highly reactive and they can be easily cut with the knife. They have a low densities and having a low points because they generally easily melt with the help of with the low heat. Elements can be more clearly classified as metals and non-metals on the basis of their chemical properties. Like the activity 3.8, take a magnesium ribbon and some sulfur powder. Take a magnesium ribbon and some sulfur powder. Burn the magnesium ribbon, collect the ashes from the dissolved form in the water. Okay, so what will be the reaction? You know about that magnesium ribbon and ashes formed of the magnesium oxide. Okay, and dissolve them in the water. Then the resultant solution with both the red and blue litmus paper. In the test, the resultant solution with the red and blue litmus paper, you know about that with the red and blue litmus paper. If there is having the acidic properties, then blue litmus paper changes to red, and if the properties of the basic properties, then red is changed into the blue. In the product formed in the burning magnesium acidic or basic, now burn sulfur powder, place a test tube over the burning. You know about the sulfur is a non-metal and magnesium is a metal. So when the metal is react with the when metal is formation, the metallic oxides, okay, and when it is react with the blue or red, what will be the showing? We will discuss here. Now we are discussing only about performing only the activity. What will be the conclusion of this activity? We will describe at the downside. So now burn sulfur powder, take a test tube over the burning sulfur is collected in the fumes produced, and some water to the above test tube and shake. Test this solution with blue and red litmus paper. Is the product formed on the burning sulfur acidic or basic? So can you write equation for these reactions? Okay, S plus O2 to SO2, and when it is react with the some water, then SO2 plus H2O, it means H2SO3. Okay, so this is the reaction. It means sulfurous acid will be formed, sulfurous acid. Okay, and upper one is a Mg plus O2, then MgO, and when MgO is added with the water, then magnesium hydroxide, it means MgOH will be formed, that is the milk of magnesia, and used in the form of antacid or as a to neutralize the acidity. Okay, and this is our H2SO3, which is the maybe the one part of the acid rain, H2SO3. Okay, that is the sulfurous acid. So both are the formation here, and you know about that when most non-metals produce an acidic oxide, it means if non-metal is there, so sulfur non-metal oxides are produce acidic oxide. So that's why when we are doing a test with the blue litmus paper, so it can be changed into the red litmus paper, because these are having the acidic properties and acidic oxides, and basic oxides can be converted into the from red to blue. Okay, so can you write equation for these reactions? Okay, we already told about and discussed about that. So on other hand, the other most metals give rise to basic oxide. So you have to remember that non-metals generally form acidic oxides. Okay, and you know about that what will be the nature of acidic oxides with the litmus. Okay, and most metals give rise to a basic oxides, and you know about that what will be the changes of color with the basic oxides. So you will be learning more about these metal oxides in the next sections. So in next video we will discuss about the chemical properties of metals and non-metals. Okay, thank you.